a 19-year-old cadet walking silently through the corridors of the military academy. No one knew his name. No one saw his potential, but every night when he read books, he wasn't just learning tactics and strategy, he was learning leadership, vision, and revolution. And he knew that one day he would turn all of this into reality. Welcome to Powerful Leaders. Before we begin this story, tell us in the comments which city you're watching from today, and if you believe stories like this need to be told, hit that subscribe button and help us make sure these voices are heard. 2003, Ouagadougou Military Academy. Behind the great iron gates stood the sacred place where hundreds of young men's dreams were being shaped. Every morning at 05:30, the reveille sounded and the corridors filled with the echo of marching boots. Among these sounds was one that never drew attention. Not too loud, not too soft, it was just there. Ibrahim Traore, 19 years old, medium height, quiet. On the class roster of 47 students, he ranked 31st. Not a mathematics genius, not a physics champion, just steady, reliable, invisible. The instructors called him Traore. His classmates rarely even said Ibrahim. He was simply known as that quiet kid. He would sit alone in the mess hall, then quickly head to his dormitory after classes. But in that small room in the dormitory, at the desk next to his single bed, something was different. Books. Too many books. While other cadets read military tactics manuals, Ibrahim read different things. Napoleon's biography, Che Guevara's revolutionary theories, Patrice Lumumba's speeches, Thomas Sankara's vision. "What are you reading again, Ibrahim?" his roommate Marcus had asked one evening. Ibrahim had answered without closing his book. The future. Marcus had laughed. The future. These old politicians' books are the future. Ibrahim had smiled for the first time then and said, "The past is the future, Marcus. It just needs to be repeated at the right time, by the right person." Marcus hadn't understood those words, but 20 years later, he would. The military academy's official curriculum was clear: military history, tactics, discipline, leadership theory. But Ibrahim had created a second curriculum for himself. Every night, after lights out, he would continue reading by the light of a small flashlight. But this wasn't just reading. This was research, analysis, planning. He took notes in his journals. But these weren't normal military notes. Sankara's mistake. Too rapid change. Insufficient support base. Lumumba's weakness. Didn't calculate international games well enough. Nasser's success. Managed to connect with the people, but couldn't sustain it. He studied every great African leader, their successes, their failures, their strategies. And he asked himself, what would I have done differently? One evening, Marcus had seen these notes. "Ibrahim, what are these?" "Homework," Ibrahim had said calmly. "For which class?" Ibrahim had stopped, looked at Marcus and said, "For a class that hasn't been opened yet." There was one instructor at the academy who noticed Ibrahim's uniqueness. Colonel Miguel Robles, professor of political science and military history, an educator with 25 years of experience and sharp eyes. Robles had noticed something while examining Ibrahim's exams. The answers were correct, but there was more. He had added deep analysis beyond the standard answers to every question. To the question, explain the reasons for Napoleon's defeat at Waterloo. Other students had written about tactical errors. Ibrahim had added this: Napoleon's real mistake wasn't tactical, it was strategic. After losing the people's support, he failed to calculate that military power alone wouldn't be enough. True power lies in the hearts of the people. When Robles read this sentence, he had stopped. Was this analysis coming from this 19-year-old cadet? In the next class, he had observed Ibrahim. He sat quietly, took notes, never spoke. But in his eyes, there was a different light in his eyes. After class, he had called Ibrahim over. "Traore, come with me." Ibrahim was surprised but followed silently. They entered Robles's office. "Sit," Robles had said. "I'm going to ask you something, and I want you to be honest." Ibrahim sat and waited. "What do you read?" "Outside the curriculum." Ibrahim paused for a moment, then answered honestly, "History, sir, but not just as it was, as it should be." Robles had smiled. "Explain." "Sir, history tells us what happened, but I want to know what will happen too. For that, I need to understand the mistakes of the past and decode the successes." That day, Robles had given Ibrahim a special list, a book list. But these weren't ordinary books. These were works that told the real stories of leaders, that analyzed the anatomy of revolutions. "Read these," he had said, "but don't tell anyone. This is our secret." Ibrahim had smiled and said, "Thank you, sir." Walking back to his dormitory that night, Ibrahim knew he had experienced an important turning point in his life. He was no longer just a student. The seeds of a leader had now been planted. As Ibrahim read the books Robles had given him, his vision expanded. But something was missing: sharing. Processing this knowledge alone wasn't enough. He needed to share it with others too. But with whom? Most students in his class were only thinking about graduating and achieving a good rank. The big questions in Ibrahim's mind would seem too abstract to them. Until he met Ahmed and Osman. Ahmed was a student from the year above, intelligent, questioning, and like Ibrahim, someone who observed quietly. Osman was Ibrahim's classmate, but they had never spoken. By coincidence, all three had searched for the same book in the library that week: Che Guevara's Theory of Guerrilla Warfare. The librarian had laughed. "This book is very popular this week." At that moment, all three had looked at each other and understood. They were walking the same path. That evening, they had come together in the mess hall. Their first meeting was brief, just getting acquainted. But in their second meeting, Ibrahim suggested something. "Let's not just read, let's discuss, analyze, plan." "Plan what?" Ahmed had asked. Ibrahim had looked around, lowered his voice, and said, "The future." Every Saturday evening, after official activities ended, the three began meeting in the quiet section at the back corner of the library. They pretended to read books, but actually, they were discussing. These discussions gradually became deeper. Not just book analyses, but Burkina Faso's current situation, Africa's problems, solution proposals. Ibrahim became a different person in these meetings. The Ibrahim who was quiet and invisible in daily life became visionary, analytical, charismatic here. "Friends," he had said one evening, "let's not just talk here. Let's make concrete plans." "What kind of plans?" Usman had asked. Ibrahim had taken out his notebook and opened it. Inside were detailed analyses, diagrams, strategies. "What is Burkina Faso's biggest problem?" he had asked. Ahmed had answered, "Poverty." "No," Ibrahim had said. "Poverty is a result. The real problem is lack of independence. Economic independence, political independence, mental independence." On the pages of his notebook was a detailed analysis of Burkina Faso's relationship with France. Which sectors they were dependent in, which agreements were unfair, which reforms were needed. "Did you do this analysis yourself?" Ahmed had asked in amazement. "Yes, and this is just the beginning." That night, Ibrahim had revealed his vision to them. But these weren't just the dreams of an idealistic young man. This was a systematic, planned, step-by-step strategy. "We will be the future of this country," Ibrahim had said. "But for that, we need to be ready, not just with military training, but with vision and strategy." As months passed, Ibrahim's situation at the academy began to change. He was still quiet, still invisible, but Robles was closely following his development. One day, Robles called Ibrahim to his office again. "Ibrahim," he said, "there are things I need to discuss with you." Ibrahim sat down and waited patiently. "You're changing. I see the answers in your exams. You're not just conveying knowledge anymore, you're transforming it. This is a good thing, but it's also dangerous." Ibrahim was surprised. "Dangerous, sir?" "Yes, because you've stopped being just a student. You're now a leader candidate, and leader candidates attract attention." Robles had looked out the window, then continued, "In this academy, in this country, young people who question the system are seen as dangerous. You're progressing too fast, asking too many questions. So what should I do?" Be more careful. Hide your vision. Keep your plans to yourself. When the time comes, emerge at the right moment. This conversation had greatly affected Ibrahim. That night, when he met with Ahmed and Usman, he had explained the situation to them. "The professor is right," he had said. "We're starting to become too visible. We need to act more secretly now." From that day on, they began having meetings less frequently. But Ibrahim's mental development didn't stop. He had now learned to be more careful, more strategic, more patient. 2007, final year. Ibrahim was about to complete his 4-year military education. But in these 4 years, he hadn't just received military training, he had attended leadership school. In his final year, his grades had improved even more, but most importantly, he had begun to gain respect among his classmates. Quiet but reliable, analytical but humble, visionary but patient. For his graduation project, he had chosen the topic Burkina Faso's security strategies. But this project wasn't just an academic study, this was the foundation of his future plans. In the project, he had analyzed Burkina Faso's security problems not only from a military perspective, but also from economic, social, and political perspectives. And in his solution proposals, he had emphasized the necessity of fundamental changes. When presenting the project, everyone in his class was impressed. This wasn't just a student project. This was a professional-level analysis and strategy document. After the project presentation, Robles had approached Ibrahim and said, "Ibrahim, you're one of the most talented students to graduate from this academy, but your real talent isn't military, it's in leadership. Thank you, sir. I have advice. Be patient. When the time comes, you will do very important things for this country. But first, gain experience, build networks, wait for your time." Ibrahim would never forget this advice. For 15 years, the graduation ceremony was a big organization. Families, senior officers, government officials, everyone was there. Ibrahim's family had also come. His father had supported his son's education by working as a waiter. His mother had bought Ibrahim's books with money earned from farming. Speeches were made at the ceremony, awards were given. Ibrahim didn't receive any special awards. He just stood there quietly among the graduates. But after the ceremony, Robles approached him and slipped a small book into his hand. "This is my gift," he said, "but don't open it now. Read it when you get home." Ibrahim thanked him and put the book away. That night, spending his last night in the dormitory, he opened the book. Inside was a note in Robles's handwriting. "Ibrahim, you didn't come to this academy just to become a soldier. You came to become a leader. This book tells how leaders made decisions in their most difficult moments. One day you too will face such moments. Then remember this book, and remember that true leadership is not about showing off. It's about service." M. Robles. The book was titled Leadership in Difficult Times. Inside, it told about the decisions of history's greatest leaders in their most critical moments. Ibrahim read the first pages of this book that night, and a plan began to take shape in his mind. It wasn't clear yet, it wasn't time yet, but he knew that one day this plan would come to life. After graduation, Ibrahim was given his first assignment. He would serve as a lieutenant at a small military base in the town of Kaya. This assignment would have been disappointing for most new graduates. A small town, routine work, limited opportunities. But Ibrahim saw this as an opportunity. In Kaya, he could make direct contact with the people. He could learn their problems, needs, expectations, and most importantly, he could test his leadership skills in real life. On his first day, other officers at the base told him, "Everything is routine here, don't get too excited." But Ibrahim adopted a different approach. He didn't just do his military duties, he also built close relationships with the people. He listened to the villagers' problems, talked with local leaders, spent time with young people. A year later, the base commander wrote this report about Ibrahim. "Lieutenant Traore is an officer who shows extraordinary leadership ability, can connect with the people, and has high problem-solving skills." This report was the first official recognition in Ibrahim's military career. But he was someone with bigger goals. Ibrahim Traore's years at the military academy weren't just spent receiving military education. During these years, he studied at leadership school, developed vision, learned strategy. The journey that began as an invisible cadet at age 19 ended with graduation as a visionary officer at age 23. But this wasn't actually the end. It was the beginning. The knowledge he gained at the academy, the advice Robles gave him, the friendships he built with Ahmed and Usman, the connection he established with the people, all of these formed the foundation of Ibrahim's future leadership. That quiet cadet waited patiently for 15 years. He gained experience, built networks, got to know the people. And in 2022, exactly 19 years later, the seeds planted in that military academy bore fruit. Ibrahim Traore transformed from that quiet cadet to Burkina Faso's youngest president. And this transformation wasn't a coincidence. This was a result that had been planned, prepared, and patiently awaited for years. That 19-year-old young man walking silently through the corridors of the military academy hadn't come just to finish school. He had come to change history, transform his country, shape Africa's future. And from that day on, every step was directed toward this great purpose. Because real leaders don't start writing history from the day they decide to become leaders, but from the day they prepare to become leaders. So what do you think? Do you know anyone who shaped their future during their education period? Share with us in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe so that these inspiring stories continue to be told. Many more inspiring leadership stories await you on the Powerful Leaders channel. See you in the next video. Disclaimer: this video has been prepared for dramatic narrative purposes and is inspired by real events. Characters and events have been arranged for entertainment and inspiration purposes.